Senior reporter Jake Wasikowski has been covering the Trail trial for weeks. First of all, the jury returning this verdict in just 2.5 hours. That's quick.
It's not a surprise what they came back with the verdict then. 2.5 hours, seemingly the jury goes in, it kind of feels out where everybody's at, looks through some of the evidence. But yeah, I mean, 2.5 hours for a 3-week trial with all the evidence, thousands of pieces of evidence to go through. Pretty fast, and it's not surprising that they came back guilty on first-degree murder.
You've been in the courthouse day in, day out. What did you see as some of the strongest evidence for the prosecution?
I think some of the strongest evidence was just the video. You literally could see Aubrey Trail and Bailey Boswell going into stores the day that they now that Trail is convicted, has been found guilty, the day that he murdered Cindy Loof. He's going into Home Depot and buying hacksaws. They're going into each individual store to buy small amounts of things like drop cloths to clean up, trash bags, bleach, and then they go to another store and do it again. And this was all just prior to Cindy Loof going on this date with Bailey Boswell on the 15th of November in 2017. And the prosecution brought that up too. While she was getting ready for her date, this is what Trail and Boswell were doing to prove that premeditation in this case.
A lot of theatrics on the part of Trail throughout this trial. Anything that stuck out as particularly unusual? You cover a lot of court cases.
He was called by a con man by the prosecution and was saying that this was his biggest con, him coming forward and testifying. You know, the day where he slashes his throat and hasn't been seen until 2 days ago, and he's testifying in his own defense. His defense attorney said that he didn't have time to prep him or even get ready to ask him questions. And even in his closing arguments, he said he was surprised with what Trail said because Trail hadn't told him. Sure. He hadn't come forward and said there were no other people there. It was me, Loof, and Boswell, and he hadn't said that to anyone before until he was testifying. So it was, his surprises with trying to control situations and continue to just tell different stories throughout the first interview he had with police until 1 day before he's convicted.
First-degree murder, that means there's an important next step in this case. What is that?
Well, because the prosecution has filed aggravators for capital punishment for the death penalty, the jury is going to have to come back on Thursday and look at those aggravators. The ones that were filed in this case are that the convicted is someone who has an extensive criminal history. Trail himself admitted to having 4 or 5 felonies already, plus that this crime was committed with a very serious, heinous nature, and that shouldn't be hard for the jury to find with the dismemberment of her body and how she was ultimately found.
All right, Jake, thanks so much, and you will continue to cover the next step in the trial.